Hi guys, good day. This title is based on how to stay positive in the midst of negative situations. How to stay calm in the midst of the storm. Well, if we left to ourselves, we're just not going to be able to do it. This is why Paul, the apostle in the Bible, wrote, whatever is true, whatever is noble, if anything worthy of praise, if anything good, if anything positive, let your mind stay on those things. In the book of Proverbs, it says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And again, Jesus said, as you believe, be it done unto you. And in the book of Romans, it tells us that to be no longer conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. It tells us to change what we think about. And in the book, The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale, he writes a powerful lesson in there that we must control our thinking because all leaders of all backgrounds, of all denominations, of all ethnicities, and just they've disagreed on numerous points. But it's on this one thing they're in completely unanimous agreement that we become what we think about. You know, the power of thought is an amazing thing. And we do become what we think about. And if we think about nothing, we become nothing. And I see a lot of people who focus on the storm, who focus on the issue, who focus on the problem and the negativity that they have facing their life. And if you continue to do that, you will continue to struggle. You will continue. Whatever you keep bringing up, you will keep bringing back. And whatever you focus on expands. Let me share a story with you out of Mark in the Bible. It says that the Jesus had just fed 5,000 people. That's a tiring day. Out of a couple fish and a couple loaves of bread, he just did an amazing feat. Fed 5,000 people and their families, about 15,000. He's tired, a day of ministry, and he told his disciples, he says, I'm going to go up to the mountainside. You cross over to the other side, and I'll meet you over there. They're like, how's he going to get over there? He don't have a boat. But anyway, they started rowing out, and they were rowed out 4 miles. 4 miles. And then suddenly a storm started rising up. They're afraid. And then they all of a sudden they see a man, a figure walking on the water, and they were terrified. Maybe all of a sudden there's been something in your life that has rocked you to the core. Maybe something has just, maybe the business didn't work out the way you wanted it to. Maybe the relationship went south. Maybe you woke up one day and you got a letter in the mailbox that just rocked your world. That you got a report from the doctor. You know, there are so many things that can shake us. And they just, and I've talked to a lot of people who had just been to church. They just went to a revival. They just went to a Tony Robbins conference. They just were invigorated by something. And then all of a sudden, that's usually how it works, by the way. You know, opportunity have a sly way of showing up as obstacles in disguise. um, In fact, before a person becomes successful, in the book Think and Grow Rich, he says, before anybody becomes successful, they're sure to meet with perhaps much temporary defeat and perhaps some failure along the way. I want to say hello to those that are watching from my profile and my group, Success Happens Now. Welcome. Um, but, this is how you stay positive. You read books, because I can tell you, being on this earth for 52 years, it can really, uh, it can tear you. You can go through things that, um, but if you renew that mind, let's talk about that. Let's talk about in Romans 12 to 12. Well, let's go back to in Mark. They had rowed out to the midst of the sea. And if you've never been to the Sea of Galilee, it is 8 miles wide and 8 miles in long. So it's got a 64-mile diameter. It's a huge lake. It's quite large. They call it the Sea of Galilee. It's Lake Gennesaret, and it's like a sea. It's like Lake Superior would be, and storms rise up on it. The waves can get rough and high and choppy, and if they had rowed out 4 miles, they were at the center of it. Hey, we're halfway there. You ever feel like you're halfway there? Like you get things going along in the business, and you're starting to make a little bit of money, and all of a sudden, things come to a screeching freaking halt, and it's all you can do to keep rolling. It's all you can do to keep going. It's all you can do to. It's frustrating, right? Well, they see this figure walking to them on the water, and they were terrified. And the figure hollers out to him, "It is I, the master, don't be afraid." Infinite intelligence defies the gravity of your situation. And in the book Think and Grow Rich, it says, by our thoughts, we can connect ourselves to infinite intelligence. And infinite intelligence really does defy the gravity of your situation. It's not alarmed by it. It can walk on the water. So they allowed, and it says immediately, as soon as they brought Jesus into their boat, as soon as they brought infinite intelligence into their boat, into their life, immediately they reached the shore. It was instantaneous. Think about that. Instantaneous. I want to remind you where they were. They were in the middle of it. They had 4 miles to go. See, infinite intelligence not only defies the gravity of your situation, but infinite intelligence also defies the time and space. So they were here, their destination was here, and they brought infinite intelligence in and brought them together. So here they were, 4 miles to go. And so I'm telling you, as soon as you begin to renew your mind and you begin to get into the presence of infinite intelligence, I think we need to raise our perspective. I heard a teacher by the name of Jennison Franklin. He said, when you have a change of place, it can give you a change of pace and a change of perspective. You need a new perspective. You need something that's you need a new perspective. You need to look at it from a different angle. This is why in the book Think and Grow Rich, it talks a lot about the mastermind. getting with others that think differently than you do, that aren't in the midst of your struggle. And you're saying, well, John, I'm out in the middle of the country. Uh, or they're not advertising on Craigslist. It's hard to find people who I want to associate with. And go to the Barnes and Noble, go to the library, go to the Amazon, go to the Kindle, go to the playbooks, go to the Bible, and start beginning to think differently by getting your mind aligned with the authors of the books of the Bible, the authors of Think and Grow Rich, the authors of The Science of Getting Rich, the authors of, of today. Jeffrey Gitomer is one of the great ones. He said, if you want to learn something new, read something over 100 years old, though. The reason I love the book Think and Grow Rich is it was written at a time when they had absolutely nothing, and yet they were created everything. And here we have absolutely everything, and we're creating absolutely nothing with it. The majority of us are just aimlessly walking through life. It's because we're not realigned. We're not going, you got to realign the mind. And you got to get in the presence of infinite intelligence. That's how you overcome negativity with positivity. It's how you overcome that stuff. Doesn't mean the negative circumstance just goes away instantaneously, but it can be as if it does. I mean, I was just reading in the book of Joel this morning, when we begin to rend our heart and not our garment, when we begin to do what's on the inside. I heard this say, if you're going without, start looking within. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Well, if all you're conceiving and believing is negativity and this circumstance is never going to change, you're right. George Bernard Shaw said, I don't believe in circumstances. The person who gets on in this world is the person who finds the circumstance that he's looking for. And if he cannot find that circumstance, he makes it. What a powerful statement. And then W. Clement Stone was noted for whatever the mind of man can conceive and achieve, can believe and believe, it can achieve. So if we put all this stuff together in Proverbs, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Thoughts are things, and powerful things at that, when they're mixed with the definiteness of purpose and persistence and a burning desire for their attainment. Be no longer conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you can test, know, and approve what the good will of God is for your life, his good will, his pleasing will, and his perfect will. So there's there's that as well. And so then you have the um, and then if you change your perspective and you renew your mind and you begin to look at it from a different angle, and you begin to soak up these authors that I have mentioned, and you start letting the water of the word wash the dirt of life away from you, it can give you that new perspective that you need. And that's how the power of thought can help you. Doesn't mean the circumstance change. But George Bernard Shaw said, I don't believe in circumstances. The person who gets on in this world is the person who finds the circumstance that he wants. And if he cannot find it, he creates it. See, I think we need to change our beliefs. Did he not have circumstances? You know, in the book of Thessalonians, He tells us to be joyful always and pray continually and give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. Be joyful, prayerful, and thankful. Three simple things, right? In the midst of the circumstance, in all circumstances, be grateful, be prayerful, be joyful in all circumstances. Then, if you go over to what George Bernard Shaw said, he changed his belief system. I don't believe in circumstances. I'm not going to accept this anymore. I'm not going to dwell here. I'm not going to live here. I'll be content with it, but I'm not satisfied with the result thereof. Henry Ford was content with a horse and buggy, but he was not satisfied with the result. It's that simple. You can be content with a candle and a gas lamp, but you don't have to be satisfied with the result. And so be content with what you have, but don't be satisfied with it. You find yourself in a negative circumstance, I can be content in it. I'm not satisfied with it. I can choose to change. Choose to change, and your life will be forever different. Thank you. I'm John Ribble.